Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. This is lesson 5 of the reboot, and today we're going to be talking about a topic that is so common amongst women and especially mothers that I have decided to share this lesson with all of the readers of the blog Confessions of a Muslim Mommaholic. I'm gonna make this lesson public, and I decided to do that because I was sort of blown away at how many women cited self-guilt as the number one deterrent for them reaching their goals. A few months ago, I posted a question on my blog, and to be quite honest, I was expecting a variety of answers. And the question was, what is the number one obstacle for you achieving your goals, for you becoming the person that you want to be? And although everybody didn't explicitly say self-guilt, all of their answers in one shape or another was some version of self-imposed guilt. It was the thing that crippled women the most. And if I'm totally honest, I was a little taken aback by that. And I think the reason I was taken aback by it personally is because I don't really have a lot of self-guilt. And it's not that I don't have guilt, it's just that when those thoughts do occasionally creep into my mind, I immediately shut them out. And it was surprising to me that so many women were unable to do that. And not only were they unable to do that, it led to them it was the number one reason why they weren't able to make progress in their life. When I realized that so many women were affected by guilt, I realized I needed to make some changes to the reboot. And one of them was that this needed to be one of the main lessons. And so this is the first time in the history of the reboot that I've actually talked about guilt, and I've addressed it. I want to share with you some statistics that were a little alarming for me, and maybe you'll feel the same way. There was a survey that was done that said that 96% of women feel guilty at least one time a day. 96. So pretty much all women feel some sort of guilt at least once a day. For almost half of women, that feeling comes up to 4 times a day. That means up to 4 times a day, women will feel guilty about something. Researchers have dubbed us the guilty all the time generation. And when you look and see what it is that women are beating themselves up over, feeling guilty about, it's really everything. From their relationships to their own personal development, to their role as mothers, as friends, as wives. It seems that pretty much every sphere of our life invites guilt. It's something that really permeates a multitude of facets of our life. There's a woman named Susan Carroll. She's the author of a book called Escaping Toxic Guilt. And she said that women feel guilty when they don't think that they are being good enough in their various roles, especially as wife, mother, and daughter. That's because familial, cultural, and religious tenets teach women that being good is the most important thing. And when a woman feels that she's not putting others first, she quickly feels like she's doing something bad, and then guilt rushes in. And there's some more that I read about guilt that I'm not really going to share with you, but it was interesting to know, a contrast between men and women and why men don't feel guilty. And the reason for that is men tend to externalize blame. They blame something outside of themselves for failures, but women tend to internalize blame. So we blame ourselves when something goes wrong or when something bad happens. All right, I have written down 10 steps, 10 things that you can do to eliminate the guilt monster in your life. And I'm going to try to knock these out as quickly as possible. Number 1, look at the big picture. I think what happens with women is that we tend to focus on the individual pieces. We look at the individual failures. You know, if we wake up in the morning and instead of going to the gym, we sleep in, or we take a bite of something that perhaps we shouldn't have eaten. I think what happens is we trip ourselves up so much for these little missteps that we sort of lose sight of the big picture, which in the long run, taking a bite of, a piece of chocolate cake isn't going to do that much damage in the long run to the bigger picture. And our inability to see that bigger picture sort of cripples us in terms of that ability to pick ourselves up and to keep moving forward. So the first step is to not focus so much on the tedious bits, but to sort of broaden our perspective and to put these small things that happen into a bigger context. When we look at things with a proper perspective, it sort of helps us to eliminate the guilt that we feel when those little things happen, when those little missteps happen. All right, number 2, flip everything over. Look for the other side of things. There's that expression that the grass is always greener on the other side. Well, grass is always green. Grass is not black or white. It is green. It's green on this side of the fence, and it's green on this side of the fence. It is green on your side of the fence, and it's green on the other side of the fence. What tends to happen is we tend to look at the other. We tend to look at other people's lives. We tend to look at things that are going on someplace else. And we view those things in such an altruistic light, as all-encompassingly good. And we don't tend to see things with balance. So number 2 is all about seeing things with balance, seeing the flip side of things, knowing that with every good, there comes a con. Just like within your own life. There are good and there are bad. There's weaknesses, but there are strengths as well. So when you look at somebody else, you look into somebody else's life, try to visualize the flip side. Try to complete the picture. Try to make sure that when you are looking outwardly, you are looking at things with balance. This is huge. This is huge. I remember when I first got married, a lot of people would come to me for advice. And, they would say things to me like, why do you not compare yourself to others? And why does it not bother you when you see other couples, when you see the good things that others have? And I would always tell people, I'm one of those people that people tend to run to me and tell me their problems. And I've always had this knowledge that things are never what they appear to be. Especially when I first got on Facebook and I would see these happy photos of these loving couples, I would always know the backstory. And the thing is, you don't have to know the specifics of everybody's backstory to know that they exist, to know that things are not always what they appear to be. So know that when you look at things, that there needs to be some balance in your perception. All right, that's number 2. Flip things over and look at things from the other side. Number 3, realize that there are some things that are in our control and there are some things that are not in our control. You need to know the difference. You need to know what things you can actually take measures to change and to fix and to correct, and what things you can't do anything about. And if there's things in your life that you cannot do anything about, you need to rid yourself of guilt over those things. That is not beneficial guilt. There's nothing you can do about it. And for the areas in your life that you can do something about, do something about it. All right. Number 4, just like when you go to the airport and they tell you not to carry anybody's bags, don't carry anybody's baggage. Don't walk around carrying anybody else's baggage. I think a lot of times with women, especially when we become mothers, we tend to hold on to this guilt that's put on us, not by ourselves, but by others. There's, this sense of you should do things this way. You should be breastfeeding this way, and you should be sleeping with your baby this way, and you should be, interacting with your baby in this fashion. There's a whole suitcase full of shoulds that other people tend to impose on us. So take control of your life, own your life, and only your life. Don't allow anybody else's guilt and anybody else's luggage to weigh you down. The example I like to give people, the reminder I like to give people is that you are the only body who's going to be accountable for your life. When you're standing in front of Allah, you are the only one who's going to be asked about your life, as well as the fact that you're not going to be asked about anybody else's life. So own your life. Make the decisions that best suit your needs. It might not make everybody else happy. It might not be what everybody else wants to hear, but you are the only one, at the end of this life, you are the only one who's going to have to account for your life. So make the decisions that best suit your needs. All right, number 4. That was number 4, right? Hold your own luggage. Number 5, not all guilt is bad. We tend to become so crippled by guilt. It takes us to this negative place, and it doesn't have to be that way. A lot of times when we feel guilty about things, it prompts us to change something, and that's a good thing. It may not feel good and it may not be comfortable, but it is something that in the end is good for us. So embrace the fact that not all guilt is bad, and sometimes it will push you to improve something about yourself. I can't tell you how many times I've had a conversation with a friend where I've walked away feeling really yucky inside. And it's sort of unnerving, when you walk around with this load of guilt. But after I sort of take some time and decompress, I change things about my life. I change, things that I'm doing. And that's a good thing. Life doesn't always have to feel great. And a lot of times it's those negative feelings associated with guilt that sometimes propel us forward. With that being said, if you are in a place where you do have that yucky feeling, that sort of deflated feeling from guilt, and it is something you can do something about it. Make a change in your life. The best antidote for change, the best antidote for guilt. The best antidote for guilt is coming up. I'm going to mention that. But one of the best things to diffuse guilt is to actually make some positive changes in your life. It will help you rid yourself of that guilt. So change yourself and progress your life. All right, number 6. When we look at our shortfalls, when we look at our weaknesses, when we look at our mistakes, use these as opportunities to learn. When we learn from our mistakes, this really helps to alleviate guilt. And this kind of goes back to the past point that not all guilt is bad. Number 6 is use your guilt as an opportunity to learn from it. Either you change something about yourself, or you spend some time exploring what is going on inside of you that made you feel bad in the first place. Why did you feel bad? Why did you feel guilty? There's some weakness inside of yourself, perhaps. There's some insecurity in yourself, perhaps. And those are things that when you see this effect of guilt surfacing in your heart, it's an opportunity for you to learn from that and to sort of weed out what those reasons are that created the guilt in the first place. When you see guilt, know that there's something underneath the surface that created it. So it's a blessing from Allah for you to get that sort of indication that, hey, something's not right inside that you need to address, that you need to pay attention to, and that perhaps you need to fix. All right, number 7. What is the antidote for guilt? I think this is the antidote for 99% of what ails me, and that is gratitude. Gratitude is something that fills you up. It makes you feel full. And guilt is something that deflates you. It makes you feel hollow and empty. So what better way when you feel guilt to take a moment out to fill yourself up with gratitude? When we don't acknowledge everything that Allah has given us, but I'm going to go one step further. When we don't acknowledge who Allah made us, we are being ungrateful for the gifts and the blessings that Allah has given us. So what is it that I'm saying? I'm saying when you beat yourself up so much, when you take yourself to such a low place, it's possible that you are not being grateful to Allah for the things that He has given you. You're seeing your life as half empty, and you're seeing yourself as somebody full of weakness and flaw. And when you see yourself in that way, you are taking for granted the fact that Allah created you with certain gifts and certain talents. And you have an obligation to be mindful of those gifts and those talents. That's part of our gratitude to Allah. So take a few moments and be grateful for the things that Allah has given you, but more importantly, for who Allah has made you, for how Allah has made you. All right, gratitude. Number 8. Woo, I'm going a little longer than I expected. Okay, number 8, cut out toxins. This is one of my favorite things to do. Cut out the people in your life that are making you feel bad about yourselves. Listen, not everybody who makes us feel bad about ourselves is a bad person. And there are people in our lives that when we meet them, we walk away feeling totally yucky and really gross. We can't always figure out and pinpoint why it is, but we know in our heart that whenever we walk away from them, we feel bad about ourselves. Cut those people out of your life. Time is too short to waste with people that bring you down. When I say this, it doesn't mean that you have to think ill of that person or that you have to have some animosity in your heart towards that person. No, and actually I will challenge you. Make sure that when you cut them out of your life, you feel no ill will towards those people. Okay? This is not about thinking less of somebody. It's just about making smart choices about who and what you choose to surround yourself with. You know, I've said this before when it comes to Facebook. We need to do a Facebook sweep from time to time. And not just in terms of who our friends are, but in terms of the things that we follow and the things that we like. You know, you have choices that you make about what fills your newsfeed, whether it be on Facebook or any other social media outlet. You know, a friend of mine, she was telling me how on Instagram she follows a lot of these workout, individuals. And she told me to go and add all of these workout sites, and it would really motivate me to work out. So I went through her list of the people that she follows, and I added every single one of them. So every day when I would wake up, or every day when I would check my Instagram, it would be full of all of these people that were really intensively into working out. Well, it didn't take very long. I think it was like, 2 or 3 weeks where I realized, this is just sort of making me feel like a failure. There's so many other things that I'm doing in my life, so many other steps that I'm taking, so many other measures that I'm progressing in. And yet every time I would get on Instagram, I would feel sort of this defeatist feeling. It was not contributing to any positivity in my life. So I unsubscribed to all of them. That's a choice that I have the ability to make. And that's a choice that you have the ability to make. So cut out the toxins in your life. Number 9, increase in the positivity. Increase in the good influences in your life and the things that take you to a more productive and positive place. One of the things that I always do is I pay attention to how I react to things. I pay attention to what things bring me to a good place and what things bring me down, whether it be people or whether it be things. And that's something that you need to start doing. You need to start paying attention to the things that progress you and the things that hold you back. And in terms of the things that progress you, it may not necessarily be the things that you enjoy the most. Quite frankly, the people in your life that make you the best person might not be the person that you have the most fun with. but they are the person that brings you the most benefit in terms of, you know, your own personal development and progress. So pay attention to the forces in your life that create positivity in you. And number 10, this is my favorite way to rid yourself of guilt, and that is to write your own rules. You know, the 80s and the 90s, you know, the feminist movement sort of brought about this idea of women being able to have it all. And I think at the turn of the century, we sort of started to reassess what this means to have it all. And you know, I think what has happened is we've sort of created this culture for women where we have these sort of high ideals and expectations in so many areas of our life. And we feel inadequate when we are not up to par in all of these areas of our life. So I want to end with a quote that I thought was just brilliant. Maria Shriver was talking about her mother, and you know, for those of you who don't know, her mother is Eunice Kennedy Shriver. She's the sister of Jack Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, and she's the creator of the Special Olympics. And she's somebody who I'm sort of, you know, a little obsessed with, because I think it's just. I just think it's really interesting when you see women who were mothers who were able to accomplish so many other things. And she actually gives a quote, and I think it so perfectly, you know, expresses point number 10 of writing your own rules. She says, Maria Shriver says when she's talking about her brother, she says, a better way to think about it may be to aim to have it all over a lifetime. She said, my mother once said to me, there's a time to mother, a time to be single, a time to work, a time to volunteer, a time to pray, a time to be active, a time to be, a time to do, a time to talk to yourself, and a time to be quiet. I just thought that was so brilliant, and that is the final point that I'm going to leave you with. I hope, inshallah, that Allah rids the guilt out of all of our hearts and makes us focus more on the positive and the productive, and that He helps us to achieve our goals. Oh, homework assignment. There is a homework assignment this week, and the homework assignment for everybody in the reboot and everybody who is not in the reboot, I want you to do this as well. I want you to get out a piece of paper, and I want for you to start making a list of everything positive in your life, number 1, and everything that is positive in yourself. I want you to make a special note of listing all of the positives that you have. And I think that focusing on the positive within ourselves is going to be one of the ways that we help eradicate guilt. And remember, guilt is the number 1 deterrent for us achieving our goals. So it's really important that we do everything that in our power to help fight against this guilt that we have. All right? I hope that helps you. And with that, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.